Good evening, everybody. How you guys doing tonight? We appreciate you guys. Welcome to Seat at the Table with Evangelist and Apostle, with Apostle and Evangelist. We welcome you guys to our weekly broadcast of Seat at the Table. We appreciate you guys. I know I put the post out and I said 6:45 that we're getting started. I realized it is 7:40. There was a few things that we had to get situated tonight before we went live, but here we are. And we do appreciate all of you guys tonight that will be joining us. We do appreciate all of you guys that have always taken the time to be a part of our conversation at the table. You know, we've been dealing and we've been talking about um, setting the course. We've been looking at the book of Second Timothy, chapter 19, that has been our foundation for this topic. And by now, we all should have been at a place and a point to where we relook, revamp, revisited, that we have did an overview of where we have been in these last 49 days that this year has begun. We should have did an oversight of our walk, our faith. I believe we should have did a look at our structure, to look at how sound our structure is. We should have looked at the infrastructures of all parts of our life, our mental, our psychological, our conscious, our subconscious. We should have been looking at the places that we've gone, the places that we've been, how we have been doing it, the manner in which we've been doing it in, the people that we have being connected to, who we are connected to, why we're connected to them, the purposes that we've allowed ourselves to connect to them, the reasoning behind these connections. We should have allowed ourselves to really take a close look to some of the partnerships, some of the people we're connected with inside of the ministry. Have they been fruitful to us? What fruit have been brought out? What kind of fruit that we have been able to harvest from these connections, from these fellowships, from being in their life, from them being in our life? What have they caused us to produce? What kind of production have been from these people being a part of our life? So when we look at all of these things, have they been productive enough where they have brought about a change in us? Are they bringing about a change in our life? Have they produced changes in our life? Are they causing us to grow? What parts of our life have they caused us to grow in? So when you're setting the course, you're really taking a real evaluation of what it has added. When you look at the relationship that you have between you and your spouse, your husband, your wife, between you and your children, whether you have a child, whether you have two children, three children, whether you have four or five children, whether your children live with you, whether they are adolescents, babies, teenagers, whether they're grown men and women, whether you have, and this may not fit for some folk because, and hopefully you won't get offended, and some folk may find it offensive. You may have more than one baby mama. You may have more than one father to your children, but we all had lives prior to getting saved. And even in our salvation, we all participated in a lot of different things. We did some things. We got engulfed. We got engaged. We allowed some things. We allowed our physical attributes, our physical hungers, our emotional, our affectionate desires and appetites to override where the Spirit of the Lord was taking us. Whether you wasn't saved or not, you were just going to church. We were told a lot of times that to find a good man or find a good woman, you had to go to church. So when you are setting the course to really put yourself in position to go in the direction that you really want to achieve the right or have the finer things in life or really better yourself or what the old folk will call for the betterment of where you want to be, you have to reset. In that reevaluation, when you begin to really look at your health, we find things that sometimes we didn't realize was causing us stress, and we have ulcers. We find ourselves losing hair, losing sleep, not being able to really think clearly, find ourselves in a place of despondency because there's no clarity of how we're going to get through the day. We can't really focus on the job that we are doing or focus on the task that's in front of us because we know what we're supposed to do. We know how we're supposed to do it. We know the manner in which it's supposed to be done. We know the rules of how to engage about go out doing it, but because we have so many things on our mind because of what has been going on, we cannot clearly allow ourselves to engage or begin to engage in what is supposed to be done. So the encounters that we have previously had, the conversations that we previously had, how heated, how steamy, how vigorous, or how emotional they were, we still have not allowed ourselves to release those things that were said, done, we seen, we read. We have allowed them to occupy too much space, too much time. We've given them too much attention. We've allowed them to have too much of our valuable breath. Brain space. We've given them too much opportunity to set, seethe, grow, die, now become something else, and they become so much a part of us that we've lost direction. So now you got to reset. You got to now revamp. You have to now unplug. You have to now unwind. We've allowed ourselves to take in other things. We have ingested. We have now allowed ourselves to use other substances to sustain us. So when we go back or we have ran to the church, we've now found the Lord. We've now become religious. We've now become spiritual. And now in these things, we still have not allowed ourselves to detox, to allow ourselves to exfoliate. Welcome tonight. Welcome, Cousin Tony. So when we're talking about setting the course, you have now put yourself in position to re-navigate to the place that you really want to go, to be able to clearly see how you're going to get there financially, mentally, to stabilize, to restabilize, or get to a place of stabilization. And in that, you have to now create a order, set a real standard, put yourself in position to really enforce boundaries and borders. Don't allow yourself to become so overwhelmed by what you have heard, what you know you have been hearing, what comes in your hearing, what you have allowed yourself to overindulge in at one time. You have to really begin to remove, uncover, undress, and redress, and dress now with the garments that you know will be able to help you to succeed and be successful in what it is that you know that you really want to do to achieve, and discipline yourself. Become to a place to where you're not overbearing with yourself, you're not overbearing with the people around you, you're not becoming too arrogant or asinine to yourself nor those around you, but you stay steady. You put yourself at a place in yourself mentally that you understand that there will be some mishaps. There will be some moments where you overlap some things. There will be some overlapping. You will make mistakes. Something may go wrong. Something will go wrong. But you don't get down on yourself. You get up. You dust yourself off. You look at what it was that didn't quite fit, didn't quite go right, what it was that may have went wrong, what it was that was missing. You may forget some things. Some things may not quite work this way this time. Doesn't mean throw it away. No, it can still be used, but it may not be for this particular moment, may not be for this particular process, may not work at this particular juncture in where you're going, but it's still useful. Did anything that somebody said or done, even if it was negative, it still can have a positive repercussion in what is going on in your life. Negative things don't always mean that they always have a complete, full negative impact. They had it at that moment, but now you can take a negative impact and turn it into a positive reproduction of where and a positive building block to where you need to go. Because at the moment, it impacted you negative. Now you can turn it into a positive. How? Now you readjust what it was that it was used towards you to hurt you, and now you use it to now become some of the materials or elements you use to elevate you. Because now you separate the things that were there to defeat you, destroy you, hurt you, kill you mentally, socially, emotionally, affectionately, physically, verbally, where it was supposed to now cause you to completely die. The good thing of it was it did kill something in you, but it may have killed something in you that was not necessary for the journey at that moment. And that's good. Let it stay where it was at. Stop trying to go get everything back that Satan stole. I understand we've heard and we know, and there have been many songs and we've sung them in the church. There are many secular songs that have those words in it. Go and get back. Let's get it back. Let's take it back. I want it back. I want you back. Baby, come back. And all these other things that we've heard. Some need to stay gone because they were meant to leave. They were there for a moment. We've all heard the saying, there are things that are there for a moment, there are things that are there for a season, and there are things that are there for a lifetime. Solomon tells us in the book of Solomon, he says that God have things there for a time, for a season, for a purpose. Everything God did there for a reason. There's a time, there's a season, there's a purpose under heaven. There's a time to die, there's a time to live, there's a time to plant, there's a time to pluck up, there's a time to bury. So there's a reason for everything. There's a time to cry, there's a time to rejoice. So there is a moment for everything. So when the course is set, which means you have a specific destination, we all have that. We all have a ticket. And you have to choose where your destination is going to be. Y'all know all these game shows. They give you a ticket and they say, now you choose when you win where you want your destination to be. You can choose Aruba. You can choose Cancun. You can choose anywhere in Mexico. You can choose anywhere in Europe. You can go to Italy. You can go to Paris or wherever you want in the world. You can go to Australia. You pick the destination and they're going to pay for it. You got to pay the taxes. You can choose whatever car on the lot, but you got to pay the taxes on the car. And I'll go and get it. So there's a whole lot of things that we can choose. Our parents gave us a lot of choices. My mother gave me a choice. She said, I'm going to put 3 books in front of you and you choose the book that I want you to read. She said, now I'm going to put a dictionary, an encyclopedia, and the Bible in front of you. You choose the book you want me to read to you. At least I heard opposite. I thought she told me to choose the book she wanted me to read to her. And I picked the Bible and I read Jeremiah chapter 1 to her because I thought she said pick the book she wanted me to read to her, but she told me to choose the book that I wanted her to read to me. I heard opposite. I really thought she told me to choose. And when she heard me reading it, she took me to our pastor, Reverend Allen, and she said, listen, the boy ain't but 3 years old, but he read this and tell me if that's what that say in there. I know what it said, but I'm going to let him read it to you. And that's what happened. So sometimes we have to make a choice, but we also have to listen at what choice have been said and who it is that's supposed to be making the choice. And at that moment, God switched the choice. and he gave me the choice, and I, in turn, read what it was that was supposed to be read when she thought she was supposed to be reading to me, but God wanted me to read to her to let her know what it was that my purpose was to be doing. So, with that being said, I'll pause for a brief moment and we'll see what information God has laid upon the heart of evangelists, and then we'll go forward. So, remember, we got to revamp, revitalize, restore. We also got to reposition. Then we got to allow ourselves to now remove. Remember those re's that I just said.
As you was talking, I was listening. One of the biggest things that I look at in this day and 24, we noticed that
24, this 2025.
I know we're in 25. Hold on.
Okay.
Take your time. That's your problem.
No, she
don't hear clearly.
Oh, I hear clearly. Because
right.
she said 24, like, we ain't no 20. She took it back a whole other year. 24.
Okay. That's what you mean. Really started getting into the shots, losing weight and everything. But even before then, we know that one of the channels that they got now where they do My 600-Pound Life. And one of the biggest things that I look at is when you watch that TV show and everyone that decide, okay, I need help. I can't do this by myself. And they make these long trips to go see Dr. Now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But whenever they make these long trips and they have it made up in their mind, they have a idea of this is what I want to do. But nobody takes the time to look at the work before going.
Right.
And whenever they arrive there, everybody says, I know I need his help now. I'm going to die. Most of us make decisions and we have an idea what it is that we got to face. But it's not until we get there, we get in position to face what it is that we have to face.
Mm-hmm.
Most people go in his office and he sit down and he talk to them. And the first thing he do before he even give them an answer that he's going to do anything for them, he put the decision back on them. Right. I need you to lose a certain amount of weight before I even consider doing the weight loss surgery. And I noticed that last year, whenever the shots started coming in there, FDA approved that it was able to be used for weight loss and for diabetes and all types of things. And everybody started going to get Ozempic and all of these shots to help out with weight loss. Some people was having
Monaro, like I take.
Right. Some people was having difficulties with the shots.
Christian, just
some people were losing the weight rapidly, and they started noticing that they was losing muscle mass.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the biggest things that I look at is that anytime a lot of people, whenever they went on a strict diet or they took shortcuts to getting somewhere, and they never reconditioned their mind, what tends to happen whenever all these things are over, and you have to live out all the decisions that you have previously made, what tends to happen is they go back and they gain all the weight back over. They go back and they start eating with the same bad habits that they had before they got put in this position. That was one of the biggest things that made me really pay attention, that whenever I would watch My 600-Pound Life, is that not everybody was successful. You said that sometimes you got to take what's negative to make it positive.
Right.
There were several people that I seen as they went through, and he followed them for a year or a year and a half, talking, encouraging, trying to get them to get on track, trying to figure out what is the problem, what keeps keeping you here. Maybe you need to talk to a therapist. Let's see what arrived you to this situation. But the whole time, nobody was paying attention but him, because people wasn't even paying attention. They knew their health was declining. They knew that they was dying on the inside.
Exactly.
But they never paid attention to what it was that actually started killing them in the first place. And whenever I get that and I think about it, they called us the microwave generation, right?
Exactly.
Because that's when the microwave started coming out. And we look for a quick fix for a permanent situation.
Yeah, for the solution.
And many times what tends to happen is all we ever do is put a patch on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we wonder why we never make it to the next level.
Right.
Or we never make it to our goal. And it's because of the fact we never changed anything.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest things that I look at is that right whenever he get ready to do the weight loss surgery, he made them understand that you will arrive back to this situation. See, what we don't realize is that we were always being taught is that the ending is going to be worse than you started out, because you already know what it is that you've already had to face to get you where you at. But yet and still, we choose to go back to where we left.
Mm-hmm.
We choose to go back to a dead situation whenever God has already brought us out of it, because we already knew that that situation was death anyway.
Right.
And a lot of people, whenever they go to him, they already know that if I don't do anything about it, I'm going to die just in this situation. But not everybody come out. But the ones that do come out, and they did the follow-up show, and they talk about how much their life has changed.
Exactly.
After they realize and recognize what brought them to this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Only then will we able to revise. Ain't that what you said?
Mm-hmm. Revitalize,
because we got to live, y'all.
Revamp.
We got to revamp some things, so that means we got to rethink some things.
Restore.
We got to restore some things, so that means those things that we let go, we got to put something in those places. So then we can actually live the life that we chose, that we want to live.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest things is we know this is the first quarter, right? We're about to the end of the first quarter. Many of us don't set resolutions, but a lot of us do set goals. And then the goals that we set, how many of us have almost reached the goals that we set? And I'm not just asking you, I'm asking myself that. How many of us have actually looked at from January 1 to today? And we know that February is almost out. How close are we to our goals? One of the biggest things I shared with my son and my daughter, I said, you know what? It's nice to have goals, but you also have to have some short-term goals. Because see, whenever you reach short-term goals, it starts positioning you to get ready to go to the long-term goals.
Exactly.
Because of the fact you recognize everything that you have already crossed over. Mm-hmm. You recognize those small hurdles. Whenever a runner runs, especially one that does the hurdle run, mm-hmm. they recognize that whenever they take off and they start getting over that first hurdle, they get over the next one, they realize they're no longer in the same position they was in when they started out.
And you got to do some stretching. You got to make preparation.
You're right, we do. And a lot of times whenever we get ready to start a diet, do we make preparation or we just go to start a diet? I'm going to be honest. I'm one of them. See, I told you I can talk about me. I can't talk about you, but I can talk about me. It's the first thing I think, I'm going to get in this diet. I'm going to drop this weight. I'm going to be strict. I'm going to cut this out. I'm not going to eat this. I'm not going to eat that. And then about 3 weeks in, it's like my body and my mind be saying, hey, but remember that soda. Right.
But you said something that was key. Is that we don't prepare our mind. We don't allow ourselves to make the changes in mind. And that's why I just put on the message board. You know, Paul said in Romans 12:2, he said that we cannot be formed to this world. We got to be transformed by renewing of our mind. So if we don't revamp, if we don't change, if we don't allow ourselves to look at how we process information, if we don't change the process of our thoughts, if we don't change our mindset, and you said all of that a second ago to what you just said. Yeah, you jump into the diet. You said that with Dr. Now. He said, before I do this, there's some things that you do. You got to lose a certain amount of weight, blase, blase, yada, yada, whoop, whoop. So you have those that go in, they lose a certain amount of weight because they want the surgery, but the mindset haven't changed. What was it that you were doing? What was it that was causing you to go back? Sometimes it's the people. Sometimes it's the words that were said. You have people that were enablers. We have enablers to keep us where we are. Yes. They are a support group, but they're not the right kind of support group. They are people that are emotionally tied to us, but they're not emotionally tied to us in the right manner. Mm-hmm. They keep us in the same place in our minds, in our ways, in our habits, our mannerisms, our behavior. So we don't have the strength to be able to pull away. We don't have the strength to discipline ourselves. We have the discipline, but we don't have the discipline strength. Mm-hmm. We don't have the discipline to be able to stay, or the sustaining discipline to be able to keep us from going back into it. So you basically
want that support that's going to discipline us because of the fact it's a little easy, whatever you.
Well, we want somebody. We want somebody to be easy. Yeah. We want somebody to say, "Okay, just give up, just quit, don't do it." And then there are those that want somebody that's going to be stern, firm. Mm-hmm. You want somebody to say, "No, don't do it," but you also want somebody that's willing to say, "Okay, you just had it now. Okay, you can go down and do that. It's okay to cheat every now and then." The problem becomes is when you allow yourself to cheat. Mm-hmm. When you allow yourself that cheat day, when you allow yourself that relaxed day, you become too relaxed. You don't want to be too firm. You don't want to be too easy. You don't want to be too hard, but you want to be hard enough to where you have a balance. Because if you don't create a balance in between all of that, then you'll never be able to accomplish the goal that you want to accomplish. You want to have that moment where the mind, the body, the soul, the spirit, life has an opportunity to do it, but everybody want to stay in that not denial, that not compromise, bargaining stage, because it's just like greed. You're bargaining. Well, if I just do this, well, maybe if I do it this way, if I just add a little of this, well, if I just put a little dab of sugar, if I just put a little dab of cream, it ain't gonna hurt. Well, I can't have sugar, but I'm gonna get the sweet cream and I'm gonna put in it. And if I get, the off brand of what ain't really a soda, then it really won't do it. But your body is craving it. So when you get away from the carbs, you get away from the sugars, the brain's still giving off the endorphins that still say it. So you haven't made the adjustments because you haven't detoxed. You haven't got yourself to a place to where you have allowed the body to really make the necessary changes within itself while you made the right preparations to be prepared for it. So you haven't met the mental challenges needed. Everybody that want to go on a fast haven't prepared for the fast because you haven't prepared your mind, your body, and your soul to be ready to now meet the physical challenges that's it will entail when you get ready to do it. So that's what Dr. Now have taken them through. That's what Dr. Now is showing them. That's what the preachers don't do. Well, we're going to go. Everybody want to do Daniel. Everybody want to do all the fasts that the Bible says. But then you got people that have certain sicknesses that they can't get away from certain things. They can't incorporate this part of it, but you can do this. You have husbands and wives that want to go on fast, but the words still tell you that when you're going to do that in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, that when you find yourself incontinent, lack of self-control. So there are certain areas that when you have a wife, you have a husband, you're going to be in a place of lack of self-control, and they think that means stop the whole fast. No, if your husband have a physical need and a sexual desire, you fulfill that, but you still continue to fast in other areas that don't stop. That area, you may have said, okay, well, for the next 4 days, we're not going to come together sexually, but we're going to pray, we're going to read the word, we're going to meditate and everything else. But he may have a high desire. She may have a higher desire. Hunger or whatever appetite may be greater. If you don't fulfill that, somebody gonna do something they ain't got no business doing. So you can't blame him if he go out when he telling you, okay, baby, look at here, we got some problems, we got some issues. You got to change where your mindset is at. Or if she's the one and she decides to slip out, or she start watching some things she ain't got no business doing, and she taking care of herself, and you get mad. No, you can't get mad. You understand? Mm-hmm. So at some point, you got to know how to create the balance. But that's where if God had given you a pastor after his own heart, or you doing this with somebody else and there's a group of the leader that have enough sense to be able to show people how to do it and teach them what's going on in the right way so that you create that balance. Same thing when you have a what they call them, workout teacher, whatever they will call them. You got the gym teacher, or what they call them, personal trainer. That personal trainer have gone through these classes now, where personal trainer is just somebody that figured out how to get their body strong or her body strong. So now they're teaching you what they learned. Now their class actually teach you to do that. Got life coaches and all of these other stuff. You got life coaches in the church now, and they go to classes now. So you now showing somebody how to begin to live. First of all, if you don't know how to live, don't do it. Yes, sir. Don't show me something that you really not doing, but you telling me something that you done learned in class, or something that you say you done learned, but you're not making the application of it. So that's why they teach in school now. In middle school, junior high, high school, and college, they teach them what they call applied knowledge. So knowledge, you got to know to take this information and really begin to live it out. So what you're saying makes sense. So if the mindset hasn't changed, you begin to become the conformity. In other words, you take on the shape of what it is. That's why, like you said with Dr. Now, and I'll give it back to you when I make this last statement, he had a problem with a lot of his people because they reconformed back to the same shape that they were, not just the size. They went back to that shape because their mind never reshape itself. If you never reshape the process of how you think, the manner in which you think, the behaviors, your mannerisms, how you process what comes in. We talk about all the processed foods that we got. The body has to process the process of food that comes in. So the body goes through a process of digestion when it hits our mouth. And when it starts processing that food to break it down, and it goes down our esophagus after our salivary glands begin to start breaking down as I grinds it up for us to swallow it, and it goes through the process of digestion through the esophagus down to our stomach, and our stomach begins in the sulfuric and hydrochloric acid that's in the stomach, and it now passes through our small intestines where it now begins to break it down even more and absorb it into the blood to send it now into our large intestines to the final part before it expels it out of the body, because it sits there for 5 days before it completes the digestion, because the enzymes in the large intestines have finish breaking it down even more before it say, okay, you go. Because the body has to take everything it needs, and the endocrine system has to come in. The liver, the pancreas, the spleen, all of these things have to take the parts out. The kidneys, all of them have to do their job to now be able to transport it. So if all of those systems are not working to be able to now transpose and begin to reprocess what we have taken in, and it has foreign things in it, the antibodies got to now say, wait a minute, there's a foreign agent. If you're not doing that in how you think, you're going to conform back to the same thing. So how can you say you really have the mind of Christ or the mind of anybody? And if you don't recompose what you're doing when you're with the person you say that you love, have you really taken on the mindset of your husband, your wife? Our children take on our nature. Go ahead. I'll leave it alone.
No, go ahead. I was listening.
So if we saying the people take on the nature of the priest, then to really take on the mannerism, behavior, the processing, how we eat, how we swallow. Everybody want to eat meat, but they're not ready for meat. So we're still feeding them pablum. And most people, and we've heard many people tell me, you can't handle babies, you because you feed everybody meat. No, you feed people according to what they're able to eat. And you're feeding them the small food, preparing them to eat large food, because that's what a mother does. That's what a woman does. That's what a leader does. And a real leader knows how to be a mother and a father at the same time, even if he's a man, because he learns how to be able to now break the food down. A bird goes out, grabs the food, chew the food up, regurgitate the food, and now the little chicks open their mouths, and their mouths are wide open, and they regurgitate the food back up to the children. That's what your leader does. And whatever the leader, whoever the leader is, your teacher in the class went to college. They learn the food. They take their lesson plan, go over the lesson, eat up the lesson, bring it into class, take the syllabus, and they now went back on the syllabus to now regurgitate that same food to those children that's in the class. Does that make any sense to anybody that's listening? So that's all they're doing. They're regurgitating it back up. When you say you're sitting down meditating, you've now grazed in the field. And you're doing what a cow does. Before the food gets to the forward stomach of a cow brings back up its food from the second, the third stomach, and regurgitates it, chews up the until it finally gets all of the substance out of it. So it now can finally get to its forward stomach where it completes the digestion. And when it finally gets it, raises up its tail and it poops it out. Because there's nothing left in it. When it finally eats the grass and it hits the forward stomach, that's what I'm a country boy for sure.
But you know what? One of the biggest things that I was looking at, a lot of times whenever we study, and I paid attention this week because everybody knows.
And that's right. I'm sorry. Your cousin was saying we must always put God first, because if we do, we can do anything that we put our minds to, but we must be true to ourselves. And that's right, Judah. That's absolutely right to what we just said. Go ahead.
But one of the biggest things that I looked at, and anybody know me know that
Welcome,
I
Pastor
always
Joyce.
share that I am a visual learner. I learn from what I see.
So were you able to see what I was saying?
Yes, but I'm.
No, I say you say a visual learner. I just want to make sure you was able to see what I was saying.
On last week, I saw that you had shared a post where we had went to the debate competition with our daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And I monitored and I watched because she searched and researched and read and typed up her speech and had everything ready. And I'm going somewhere with it because that's what a lot of us do, is that we get prepared to go, right?
Right.
But when she arrived there, first of all, it was already a lot of kids there, which I wasn't expecting a whole lot of kids to be there, not for debates and stuff like that. That was
about
way
500 plus kids.
That was new to me. And especially when you got middle school and high school students
and junior high there too.
That was going there. You know, ain't no junior high no more. It's called middle school and high school now. They eliminated junior high. You old school.
Yeah.
So whenever I looked at it and I thought about it and I paid attention, and I was standing outside the classroom whenever I was listening to her in the competition, and I was listening to the other kids. Mm. And I was looking at how disappointed she was because it became overwhelming. And one of the biggest things that I looked at is a lot of times, as much studying as we do, and as much knowledge that we have, it does become overwhelming when you interact with someone that has the same knowledge as you. So whenever we see and we look at things, because one of the biggest things I look at is we always talk about how we, the body of Christ, is fighting against each other. And I had to look at it because each one of those kids, it was not a fight. It was that they were passionate about their own opinion.
Oh, they were very
thoughtful about what it is that they took the time to research and to study.
That's
so
right.
Whenever you think about it and we look at it as the body of Christ, because right now everybody in the body of Christ, we all know that there's different opinions, right?
Right.
But one of the biggest things that I look at is that the words say, how can two walk together except they agree, right? So whenever we get ready to come to the table of reasoning, because a lot of us choose not to come to the table of reasoning to get an understanding of where did you come from with your idea, because the whole thing about the debate was to persuade you to think me. Right. Or to get you to take a second look at what it is that you're debating on.
Exactly.
And if I could get you just to question what it is, then we can also sound like the person in the Bible that said, I was almost persuaded.
Sound like a grip.
Then we can say, I was almost persuaded. See, you almost got me to really look at it. Because a lot of times that's what happens whenever people walk our churches and a place of worship. And it doesn't matter where you worship. Your worship could just be your prayer time, and you sitting in your car for lunchtime, and you get out and you just start having a conversation with somebody that has now became your place of worship. Yes. Because now you are sharing with them what it is that God has for you to share with them. So whenever I looked at that and I thought about it, because a lot of times you was talking about revising, right? Mm-hmm. See, we got to relook at things. We got to go back and revisit some things. We have to also know that we don't have all the answers, as much as all of us would think that we do, and as much reading and studying that we do, and as much as we all know that we all have to have the Holy Ghost leading and guiding us, that we all know that He uses us according to the knowledge that we have, right?
Right.
He increased that knowledge, but He also worked with what's already there.
Exactly.
And because He already working with what's already there, that means when you come along, that means you want to add some more to what I already know.
Exactly.
That I can't get the big head and think that I know it all. Because even as me and you was on our way back in, and you was talking about the group of kids that you had sat with and that you was the judge of their competition. Whenever you was talking and you said, even after they did their debate, they came back and they asked me questions because they wanted to know What's your opinion on this? Maybe you can add something to me. But see what I'm looking at is that I got my opinion. You got your opinion. We debated on this opinion. Now let's get another opinion in place. And a lot of times that's not what we do. We're going to get another opinion that we feel is going to be persuaded our way. We're not going to get someone that's brand new, that don't know you or I, but they're going to only give us the truth.
Exactly. And even in one of the debates that we had in the public forum, as a judge, I actually had to be a part of the debate. And while they were debating on Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and where it was at, the money and stuff that was being spent, that was both here in the state of Florida as well as abroad, they were taken back of how much knowledge that I had compared to them sitting there with their notes in front of them. So I'm like, I'm worse. I said, it's kind of ironic that what you're talking about, I fit what you're talking about. I'm one of those people that your argument is about. I fit in that classification. I say, I just had to classify myself dealing with Social Security. So I do understand both sides of the spectrum of what you guys are talking about. So if my mindset wasn't different towards it and I didn't understand it at all, and I said, I've been in those debates when it comes down to the Senate. And when you look at the fact that you're also looking at a person that actually sat on one of the subcommittees with the White House during the term of George W. Bush, I said, so I definitely know what it is to be on the floor when these things are going on. I said, you guys are just as passionate as them. I said, but the difference is what you're saying, y'all don't have a medium because neither side have actually come all the way in the middle. There's still a gap this big between you all because y'all don't have a solution nor a resolution to what's saying. Y'all have a great argument, but nobody have come up with an answer to what's going on. And I say, we've been dealing with this in our country long before you guys were ever born, even before I was born. In all the years that I've been living, nobody have come up with it, but they've come up with something to say, let's settle this so it can still be there and let's table it and we'll come back to it again. And we're still coming back to it even now. So when you look at everything that you just said, if there is a revamping, the revamping means let's revisit it, but now let's rework it. And in reworking it, let's now make sure that our expenditures are actually being put to work and the money is actually being used for what we say we're going to use it for. And if we're going to cut spending and we're going to cut out the things that says that these people now actually can do the work and the work that they're saying they're going look for, they can actually have this job, then if there's funding that's going to be given to them, then we're going to give them funding, but they still got to work this many hours on the job, but it won't affect what's coming in. But the bottom line, the majority of their income has to be sourced now from the job that they have. And if there's children involved, then what's going to have to happen then while they're paying in Medicare, Medicaid, welfare is still take care of them, but the parent can no longer be a part of that because that job will now have to supply them with insurance, but the child can still be covered under the program. So that's where you make a medium. That's where now you can now subsidize what need to be, but if the income, the parents still need that Social Security, you understand, or that disability, because there's impending or there's a possibility that they can't physically continue to work and they're going to need it. They have to reapply for their disability. Won't have to reapply for their Social Security because it's still in place. Now their increase will come because they can't physically go back to work anymore, but they've met the criteria for what it is that you say. So those are some of the things that I gave to them. So when you change the mindset of what you're doing, yes, you decrease the budget, you relieve the pressure, and it does now go to people that actually cannot actually physically no longer get out and work, but also limit the people that you say, well, because they have this disability here and because they may have this type of medical condition over here. And I'm not going to call some of the medical conditions out just for the sake of the conversation, because that was some things that I don't think really need to be said here, because certain people may have some of those conditions, but those are the things that they talked about. So when the mindset is changed and the application is brought into play, and we are applying what we say, because you have those that are lawyers, you have those that are economists, you have those that are economicists that are doing this, and they're putting these laws into place. So if that's what you went to school for, then use it for the right thing. You are now writing laws that are not really affecting the people that are supposed to be affected by it, but you're putting into place things that's going to continue to line your pocket, and you living good while the people that it should really be helping, but you're not going out. You're taking all kind of surveys, because we have folk come by doing surveys on us. You're looking at things for housing and how housing is affecting those that are in middle class, lower class, and underclass. And you're not really getting money, but the states are getting money for this, and they're getting funded for it, but you're not funding the folk that really need to be helped out. So you're sourcing in money to the states, but the states are not putting the money where the money should go. The government is not putting money where it should go, just like you just heard on the news up in the north, where you just had the flooding, and in Kentucky from the storm that they just had. And FEMA said, what we can do to help. You got the federal government that want to cut the FEMA out. But FEMA calling in saying what we can do to help. That's why the governor said, well, yeah, FEMA just called and said what we can do. And notice he was like, yeah, they called. They asked what they can do to help. And if you really looked at his face, he was like, but we all know that they trying to cut FEMA out, so we ain't really tell them nothing. Nothing right now. We just saying what we're making assessments right now. Yep. So why should I tell you what you can do when we already know it's being put in the position where you ain't really allowed to do nothing? Yep. So you have to be careful in the revamping, revitalizing, when you revisit, when you rework, so you restabilize and you bring stabilization to your life, and you discipline and you rediscipline certain areas of your life, and you remove. In the removal of things, just know when there's a removal, it will cause, some unwanted actions. There will be some people that will have issues. There will be some things in your life that will have issues. When you think about the removal, think about somebody that have to have an amputation. You will feel the effects of it, not just the pain, but think about what they call it when somebody has had an amputation and it feels like the leg is still there, but you're going to have those phantom pain. You're going to think that, the leg below is still there, but it's not there. Even though you have a prosthesis, that leg still say, oh, it's still there, but it's not there. Your hand is there, but it's not there. And you have a prosthesis, but you still think you got your hand. You think that you got all your fingers, but your fingers are not there and they're missing. I had an uncle, it was the same thing. He still thought he had his two middle fingers, but his two middle fingers were cut off. And there were times he thought they were there, but they were not. So you have to think about it. You're going to have those mental, physical, psychological, phantom pains that make you think. Even spiritually, when you cut certain things out of your life spiritually that were not beneficial, they were not benefiting you, they were not causing you to grow, they were causing you to die, they were an infection, they were disease, they were decrepit, they were corrosive, they were causing you to road. They literally make you die. They were like Tony Stark when he first had his first implant of his core in his chest, and he started dying, and he had to have all kind of other stuff he was drinking to stay alive. And when he finally found the right piece to fit in his chest, he no longer had all of this metal stuff that was causing him to die. So when you find the right element, because he found right element, remember? By the time they got to Iron Man, he found the right element. When he found and created a new element and it started removing the poison from his body, he was able to live and he wasn't dying anymore. And then when, what her name was, what his girlfriend became his wife.
I remember what you're talking about.
She was like, you dying? You mean to tell me you were dying? You got a whole lot of people that died and ain't nobody tell them. And when they find out that they were dying spiritually because the leader with, but you want it because you love them so much. Oh, they're just such a man of God. They're just such a woman of God. Oh, I believe them so much, but they've been killing you for the last 10 years. They've been killing you for the last 5 years, the last 2 years, and you trying to figure out why you spiritually decayed. And you can see it in their face. Eyes sunk in just like a dope addict. Yep. Eyes sunk in, body being decrepit, just like somebody just been giving themselves up sexually, and all because you have not realized they're sucking you dry from the inside out. So when we look at these things in life and we realize that this will happen, go back to what you said with Dr. Now. When Dr. Now began to take him to the psychologists and sociologists and started giving them the therapy, and he realized what it was that was killing them, it was people that was being parasitical. They were parasites. And we have parasites in our life. Yep. Sometimes they're our friends, our families, our husbands, our wives, our children. They slip in our stuff. And sometimes it's our own selves. We're parasitical ourselves. Because you realize when you don't eat, your body feed off itself. So think about what we're saying. When you set the course, you restart your clock. At midnight. I want y'all to take a look at this tonight. When you go to bed tonight, some of y'all stay up after midnight, and even after midnight, your heart will literally skip a beat because it has to restart. It has to set itself for the next day. And when you wake up the next day, your body has restarted itself so that it can prepare itself for tomorrow. If the Lord wake you up, your body has readjusted itself for tomorrow. Your brain restarts itself for the next day. Your lungs restart itself for the next day. Your digestive tract restarts itself for the next day. Your bones realign themselves for the next day. Your nervous system realigns itself for the next day. When the heart does that so it can reset the circulatory system for the next day. Everything in your body God has done because each day carries itself for itself. So when you are doing this, there's a realignment of everything. It's why he gave the greater star and the lesser star. He said the greater light and the lesser light. They do things for a purpose and a reason. That's why some folk go to acting stupid when there's a full moon.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Right.
So think about all the information that I just gave you. I ate my lesson more than I ate my lunch. So I didn't go to eat lunch. I went to school to learn because if I didn't, Gusta May was going to tear into my hide. And she wanted to know what I was learning. Christian, give me the card right quick before we die. Give me the card, 7%. And right before we go off, I want to make sure we don't die before we go off the air. So think about that. Go ahead. I'm going to sip the card.
Oh, no.
Oh, you waiting on me to say something?
Yeah. So tonight, I pray that you've heard something that is encouraging, something that will add, something that will rebuild you, but yet and still something that you can carry on to carry you through the remainder of this week. Join us on tomorrow night for our Fire Fuel Wednesday night Bible study. Join us tomorrow night for Fire Fuel Wednesday night Bible study. Bible study will be starting at 6:25 sharp.
Don't you got to work tomorrow?
Yes, you don't drive me to work. I drive myself.
Oh, so you want me to start on time? See, usually she want me to start Bible study right as she getting off. Okay, so we starting on time tomorrow, y'all. We starting on time, 6:25.
6:25 sharp.
Yes.
Because I don't need a pasta going over because I got to get up and go to work on Thursday.
So listen, I want you to share this with somebody because this information, I don't just teach to sound good or to hear myself talk or to think that I know something. No, because I don't know anything. What you hear me say is what God have allowed me to learn. God have allowed me to study, what people have added to my life, information that people have been able to share with me over the years, what I've learned over the years, and I give it back to those that God allowed me to come in contact with. It just so happened now we have the worldwide net, as they call it. So we're able to impart that information to somebody else. So when you think about the things that God have allowed me to share in your hearing, to be able to share across the videos over the years that I've been able to do in all of the churches that I've been able to go to. This information is so that it can add to your life. I ain't never asked nobody for a dime. It ain't about the money. It's about being able to better your life because somebody bettered my life. Somebody added to my life. Somebody poured into me. Somebody said, here you go. And they didn't say, okay, give me $20, give me $100, and I'm going to do this. Somebody took the time and said, well, listen, you know what, Garrett? You know what, John? Man, come here. I've had many people that I walk with. I've had alcoholics, drug addicts. I've had prostitutes. I've had pimps say, you know what, man, I know I should be in church, and I bet you a preacher, huh? Like, yeah, but I didn't tell you that. How you know? I could just see it. I could sense it. I could feel it. You just got that preacher feel. And I'm like, I got on some raggedy shirt and some more raggedy jeans and some slippers on my feet. We'll let you know it, man. You just see the spirit of the Lord on you. And I've had that literally happen. Trust me. Then went into Popeyes, just raggedy, just wanted something to eat because just got off from a job, and people just walk up to you, hey, brother, the Lord been good to you, huh? You know Jesus, don't you? Like, and one of them days that I was just mad. Didn't want to be bothered with nobody. Wasn't trying to hear nothing about Jesus. So I'm like everybody else, and they poured into me. The Lord told me to share this word with you. And I'm like, excuse my friend. Nigga, if you don't get out my face, I'm saying this in my head. I'm like, nigga, please, really? I'm like, okay, Jesus, I'm gonna listen. And by the time I finished listening at what they were saying, they done sobered up, and no longer I'm smelling what they smell like. And I'm like, wow, okay, yeah. And then I thought about it. 2 weeks ago, I was just praying on stuff. I'm like, you funny, Jesus. Yeah. That's how the Lord works. So prayerfully, this have added to you guys, and it has enhanced you. And I didn't say that for you to give us no money. That ain't why I said that. So let me make that clear too. But this is so that you can get something that will be valuable to your life. I've had children add to me, and those children Saturday that just passed added to me.
Let us keep our children in our prayers and in our thoughts. Because what I witnessed on this weekend, I witnessed our young people are having their own opinion, and they're watching everything that we're doing and everything that's going on in the world around them.
Oh yeah, they watching the net.
They are speaking with very much so passion
and powerful.
So whenever I looked at that and I said, people said I lost generation, but what I see in here is our future.
And kids of all nationalities. I had the pleasure of having kids of every race on the face of the earth that I sat in to judge. And none of these kids judged each other. You would have thought they were all of the same race. And they sat and they were some of the best friends and had some of the best time and loved each other. And all the kids that were there, it was like one big happy family. Nobody had no issue with nobody, including the teachers.
So whenever I saw that, I knew that it's going to get better. It's going to take a while, but it's going to get better. So let us continue to pray for our young people, because we do know that Satan come to rob, kill, steal, and destroy. And if he can get you in your youth, there's no future in you.
And she just said something I told my kids. Do not allow yourself to change from where you are now. Because if you keep the same position you have in the mindset as a child going into your adulthood, there will be nothing that would ever stop you. Because if he can destroy you as a child, he will keep you going that same way as an adult. So keep the same innocence, but mature with it, and keep the same pathway and thought process, and you'll change our country in spite of what's going on. So God bless you. God keep you. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Share this video with somebody that will help them, bless them. And as you heard Evangelist say, let's pray for our babies. I don't care what they look like, because these babies see what's going on, and they're waiting for the opportunity to be able to change the positioning of this world and the positioning of this country. So let's protect them as our parents protected us. Good night. We love you.